I've known Tembi Locke for most of my life, 37 and a half years to be precise. But more than knowing her, she has been a friend and taught me a valuable lesson that we can all learn from today. Find a way no matter what. It's that attitude, that tenacious spirit in her that comes from her ancestors that have helped her pave an unconventional path to her life, her career, and to love. Her successes are many in the unrelenting world of Hollywood, but what Tembi wants to talk about, as she puts it, is the question she learned from her parents. How do I do what I need to do? How do I serve my community and preserve the essence of who I am as a person? Thank you, Tembi, for engaging in the conversation. Hello, and welcome to another installment of At the Podium with me, Patrick Huey. At the Podium is a platform where we will learn from people who come from different walks of life, careers, and experiences, but all share one thing in common. They have stepped fully into the transformative power of saying yes to the unexpected turns of their lives. And they are now using the power of their voice or podium to make an impact on the world we live in today. At the Podium is the intersection of art, culture, and big thoughts wrapped up in good, old-fashioned conversation. Today, I'm thrilled and humbled to share the podium with Tembi Locke. Tembi is a TV producer, actor, author, and screenwriter with a passion for connecting with an audience both on the page and on the screen. Her memoir, From Scratch, a memoir of love, Sicily, and finding home, is a 2019 Reese's Book Club pick and New York Times bestseller. And she is currently adapting the book as a limited series for Netflix with Hello Sunshine. She is an accomplished actor with over 60 films and television credits, currently recurring on Never Have I Ever. Off-screen, Tembi is a nationally recognized speaker for her keynotes on resilience, loss, and motherhood. Her TEDx talk has been viewed by individuals and nonprofits worldwide. Through her work, she aims to inspire people to embrace resilience, love, and the power of community. Before we hear from Tembi, I want to invite you to share At the Podium with the people in your lives. If you love what you hear from her today, and I know you will, take a screenshot and share on your Instagram and tag @thepodium_Patrick Huey. Or if you're on Facebook, share our link there. Your shares, likes, and 5-star written reviews help grow our audience and move us up the charts. I'm grateful for your help in that capacity. Okay, Tembi, welcome to At the Podium.
Hi, Patrick. It's so good to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited for our conversation today.
It's been a conversation that's been decades in the making, I feel like, whenever we have a chance to talk, Tembi.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a version of this conversation, if I could put forward right from the top, that we've known each other for a very long time. I will not enumerate the years, but let's just suffice it to say a very long time. And I think to some degree, we've been having a version of a conversation like this for many years, since probably we first met as kids. I mean, you want to say kids, teens, it was a teenage version of that conversation.
Right. I think so. I think we have. And I think that's been one of the really beautiful things about our friendship is that it's really been a friendship that's based on the exchange of ideas. And we can go high and speak art and speak, future and politics. And then it's sometimes just really good laughter. And I think the beauty of friendships that last for so long is that they really are, it's a crown of joy on your head, right? And I think that is why I value our friendship so much. And partly why for this inaugural season of At the Podium, I've reached out to people like you who I have a relationship with, some new relationships, some long-standing relationships, but people who I believed could be a source of inspiration, joy, and light and understanding for this process and for what I'm trying to do here.
I love the way you described friendship, that it's a crown of joy on your head. That I've never heard it said that way. It is beautiful. And it captures the exact feeling of what a good, long-term, deep, authentic, and I say authentic friendship is. It's a crown of joy.
And I think the beauty of this particular moment is that this moment would not have happened unless you had connected me to the team of people that I work with for At the Podium. There's so many full circle moments that are happening in this conversation today, which I'm publicly saying how grateful to you I am for introducing me to Corinne and to Marianne, because you saw it and you were like, you need to meet these people.
I have said, this is your dharma. This is your path. It is you and your excellence. And so I'm honored to be a part of it today, but I'm loving watching it blossom and grow and seeing you do your work. It's just gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's get into it. I have so many questions for you. Almost 5 years ago, it's been about 5 years, I believe, Tembi, you sat down and you wrote from scratch, and it becomes a New York Times bestseller. And I see on your Instagram feed, you have literally inspired people around the world with your story. And now you're bringing that story to Netflix with major players involved. Reese Witherspoon's Hello Sunshine and Zoe Saldana. Did you have the slightest inkling of what your story and your book would unleash in the world and in your life?
No. The short answer is no. Well, and you're right. It was 5 years ago around this, we're in January now, so it's 2017. And I knew that, I will just say right now, full disclaimer, I will get emotional, I'm sure, during many parts of this. That is just me. Roll with it. It's all good. But I say that because I was starting to feel something bubble up now, because 5 years ago, I knew I was about to approach the forthcoming 5th anniversary of my late husband's passing. I knew that the 5-year mark was a significant mark. I'd had enough feral, deep grief under my belt to know that the more that time marched on, my relationship to my grief, to my story with him, to him, was constantly evolving. And there was some part of me that felt if I didn't capture it right now, I was afraid I might lose it. And I wanted to create a record for myself, for my daughter, and I wanted to heal. And so it was January, and I remember thinking like, okay, I think this is the year I need to write all this. This is the year I need to write a book. I'm going to attempt to write a book. Oh my gosh, I'm going to attempt to put this in a book. It kind of came to me super clear. And then I sat on it for 2 months because I was scared. When March, which is the month he passed away, when March of 2017 came around, I reached out to my sister and I said, I've written an essay. Would you read this essay for me? And my thinking at the time was that perhaps if I wrote this essay, I could get it published somewhere, I don't know, like online, on Medium. I wasn't sure. I had no clear path. But I was like, I think this essay is the key that will open the door to maybe me getting an agent or, garnering some interest in this story that I want to become a book. So I shared the essay with my sister. My sister said, this is beautiful. May I, let me just say right now, my sister is Attica Locke, who is an accomplished New York Times bestselling, award-winning novelist, critically acclaimed. And she's also a screenwriter. And you're going to hear her name, I'm sure, throughout this conversation because she's also a collaborator and partner. She shared it with her manager, her lit manager. He read it and he said, do you have more? And I said, well, yeah, I do have more than just this essay. He said, because I think this is a book. And of course, I knew that because I was thinking this is a book. And he said, give me a proposal. I had been tinkering with a book proposal for many years off and on. And now I had a manager, a literary professional saying, let's present this. And on Mother's Day of 2017, the book proposal went out. And by Monday, there was interest. And then I took the next year and I wrote the hell out of it. I wrote to the best of my ability, not knowing. And I'm coming back to your original question, which is, did I think it would change my life? No. I mean, I knew it would change my life insofar as I would be fulfilling a heartfelt desire
Yeah.
And I would be being honest and true and authentic and honoring of my deepest creative intention. So I knew that on a personal level, it was going to transform my life. And I wrote myself a letter when the book sold and once the ink was dry on the contract, because, I come from the acting world where until you have the contract and you're on set in the costume and then it airs, it's not a real thing. So even though I knew the book had been sold, I didn't believe the book had been sold until I had a contract in hand. And so once I had the contract in hand, I said, okay. I wrote myself a letter. That's the kind of thing I do. I wrote myself a letter. In the letter, and I don't have it in front of me, but it essentially said, I hope to write the best book that I was capable of writing. And I think I put in there, whether 5 people read this or 50, as long as I served the love and attempted to do that as much as I could, then I would be happy. I had no idea Reese Witherspoon would read the manuscript early on, choose it for her book club. I had no idea that we would then be approached to adapt it. And I say we, meaning my sister and I, to adapt it, and that Netflix would buy it, and that then we'd spend the next 2 years, which brings us to now, or almost 3 years now, developing it, scripting it, writer's room, putting it on its feet, and now editing. And I'm humbled every friggin' day. The thing that comes to me is love. That love has a way, and I say that because listen. We managed to make this series in the middle of a global pandemic.
Yeah.
This book came forth in the world 6 months before the world shut down. And the book is about grief. It is about loss. It is about death. It is about love. It is about rebirth. It is about family. It is about parenting. It is about motherhood. It is about place and home. And I had no idea all of those things would be global themes that we were thinking about and are thinking about as we all navigate this pandemic. So it sort of came in the world at the right time. And I think that is a part of what has allowed it to take root, to expand, to grow one by one person sharing it with another person, sharing it with another person, that it has expanded. And now it's, going to be on screen.
There is something in the book that speaks to, and you alluded to this a moment ago, to the moment. And I think that is what has given it a life beyond what you would typically see in a book. And I think that's what's given it the legs to run on so beautifully, because all of those themes are specific to your experience that you experienced over this time of your life, this love and this great loss and everything in between. But those feelings, those emotions are literally written for the epic that we're living through right now. We are in biblical territory. Those emotions are on the page in your book because the love was so deep, the loss was so unexpected and so profound. So we are all wrestling with those questions today. The questions of who we are in our humanity are fully on the table right now. Mm-hmm. And I think the story of you and Sato was the question, can this love work? And then it did. And then
the other question, which is, can I go on?
Can you go on?
And can love stay with me? I mean, I think that what I know about storytelling, both from, years as an actor and, having written a book and now having written the series, you're answering a question. Every story starts with kind of a question. And the essential question of the book was, how do I hold on to what I had and where does it go? Right. And I think that is a fundamental existential question that at the time that I was living through it after his passing in 2012, and, certainly in the writing of it, I felt I was not the first person who had been through that clearly, but I felt like that was my private question I was wrestling with and that I was seeking to answer on the page. Now it's a question we all are in. We are all living that question up front. So I am kind of in company. We're all in company together around it. And I think that is one of the reasons why when people pick it up now, it has a kind of a different meaning to it.
right? It's able to live past the sort of particulars of the plot of the story, which I think is the greatness of the memoir itself. You mentioned earlier Attica Locke, who holds a dear place in my heart. I've known her for as long as I've known you, and remember dancing across the stage in high school with your sister. And
Yes.
here we sit, grown people, which makes me laugh. But she has been with you on this process,
yeah,
from the beginning. What did that mean for you to have your sister bear witness to this process with you?
Ooh, Patrick Huey. Well, the emotions come up for sure. I'm feeling all the feels right now, just even at the question. I think it's something I'm going to spend a lifetime unpacking. This experience, because it is singular, it is unique, it is in a once in a lifetime or many lifetimes kind of experience. So my sister is my, she's my ride or die. She's my come hell or high water. She is my comrade in arms. We are creative partners. We are life partners. And I say that with great intentionality. We're best friends through all of it. And so she, in terms of the story and this adaptation and even the writing of the book, I started off the story of telling you how I wrote the book by beginning with her, because she was the first person who said, no, there's more here. And in fact, she was the one who said to me, if you don't write this book, she said, I'll never speak to you again. But more to the point, she said it with such conviction that I believed, I had faith in myself because she had faith in me. And I think that's what our good, the rock solid people in our lives do, is they see something in us that we don't quite see and they call it forward. They name it, they say, go for it. And then they stand by you as you stumble your way toward it.
Tembi, I have to tell you what you just said. We shot an At the Podium yesterday with a gentleman named Brian Williams. We shot an At the Podium a few weeks ago with my sister, Kiko Anderson. They said, and you just said it in your Tembi-like way, there is not a successful person on the planet who did not have a person help them, who God did not drop in their path to shepherd them along the way. And there's something in that. Mm-hmm. It's even more wonderful and miraculous because it's your sister, but there's something in that person who walks beside you, opens the doors for you, perhaps, cajoles you, hugs you.
Challenges you.
That's so critical to our lives. And I think I just wanted to remark that to you because it struck me when you said it.
We are very, very close. We have a very, for us, it's not unique because it's just our relationship, but I am old enough in the world and I've seen enough relationships in the world to know that it is unique in terms of the way we partner, hold each other up, support each other. And so the other blessing in having her she was at my side through all of the lived experiences that I write about in the book. So that when we come to the time and we're approached to sort of adapt it, and because she is an accomplished screenwriter as well, it was like, do you guys want to do this together with her as the, showrunner? You guys create it together. She in Hollywood, a showrunner is the person who, is kind of in charge of everything and has sort of the final say in everything, which is fantastic for my sister. She loves nothing more. But she's great at it, And so then what we could do is sort of, there's a space where we have a kind of singular voice where our two individual talents come together as one, and we could hang out in that space to create the series. And I say, I was thinking about it the other day, and I think our many roles together in going from book to series is I feel my role in this process has been kind of a guardian of the essence of the story. Because an adaptation in its very concept is that it is not the book. It cannot be the book. It is a separate medium. It has separate creative benchmarks that it needs to sort of, bend to. If there are many other people involved, there's a network, there are actors, there's director. I mean, it's a whole other medium. And so for me, I approach the adaptation saying, okay, I feel that one of the things I can really bring to this is sort of keeping it as close to the essence of the original story as possible. What my sister does so brilliantly is she is the guardian of the craft. And so she understands, because she has written 5 critically acclaimed novels. She has written and produced for television for everything from When They See Us to Little Fires Everywhere to Empire. She understands the craft of television. And so she understands what needs to happen to get that story off the book page and onto the screen. And so watching her do that at a high level, and then our internal conversations and sort of dialogues about, well, is it this, is it that, has been so incredibly exciting. But together, between the essence and the craft, is where this new form of From Scratch that will land on Netflix in 2022, that's where it comes from. And I can only do that with her. We have a kind of a shorthand where I can just give her a look and we know. Like that's a go or that's a no-go, and and we can finish each other's sentences sometimes. When I am at a low, she can rise. When she needs a moment, I can rise. And I think that makes for a great partnership. And all of our years of being sisters and like playing together when we were little and like, all of that, and reading each other's work early in our careers and cheerleading each other, when I got my first acting job and, she had her first television writing job or got her first book deal, all of that has come to bear. So we know how to cheerlead each other. We know when the other one is struggling. We can see when they're onto something and we go, oh, like, yeah. Go like, oh, let's try that. There's safety.
Right. Tembi, you have been an actress since I've known you.
And I was acting in the hallways of high school.
Right. But what the world may not know is that you also have incredible skills as a photographer, a painter. And in the bio that I read for today, you refer to yourself as an author, a producer, and a screenwriter, in addition to being an actress. And I want to know how your creative and personal voyage over the last 15 years has expanded your notion of who you are and in the ways that you contribute to the world, because it's so much broader than where we started.
I know. And I was going to say I struggle with that. And what I mean by that is I think I struggle with the nomenclature. Yeah. I struggle with like assigning these titles, right? And if I really say all the things, it feels like, wait, are you just stringing a bunch of words together? Like, we live in this time of like multi-hyphenates and, it feels a little pomp and circumstance to me, right? So in that sense, I struggle with it, but I understand that there is a value at the personal of naming what you do. And I think it's actually essential for us as artists. So sometimes I actually task myself with just naming it. Because then I'm owning that space. I'm owning that part of me. I am not disavowing myself of whole parts of who I am. And I'm not doing that for the front-facing world. I am doing that for Tembi. Because I have come to understand that I am more than one thing, that I, if I may borrow the language, contain multitudes. What that also does for me is it helps me to stay true to and to hold accountable to whole parts of who I am. Because sometimes I might be like, oh, well, right? Because I was definitely, came into the world at a time where you did the thing that you said you were going to do. You got that profession and that's what you were. And it had a kind of singularity to it. And that was your fixed identity that you were supposed to march through the rest of your life with. Well, lo and behold, that doesn't work for anybody. But there's some still vestige of that way of thinking that I find myself constantly having to challenge. So yes, I always knew that I had all of these artistic yearnings. Acting was the first place for those of us who find ourselves on the stage or in front of a camera acting, is that we are trying to claim some part of the human experience that we don't have permission to do in our real lives. When you get to inhabit a character, you get to behave and say things that might not be okay in your normal pedestrian, everyday rank and file life. And I thought that was damn exciting. The idea that I could have some other name, put on some costumes, and explore the human landscape in a way that Tembi, Locke, the 15, 20, even 30-year-old couldn't fully do. So that's how I came to acting. As a professional actor, when I was first starting out, Patrick, I'll be real frank with you. Those times, audition to audition, job to job, when it was just a dearth, like a vacuous space of like, wait, who am I? Wait, what? Like, I'm not acting. I'm not, what? I was like, well, there's a creator in me. There's a creative artist in me. What can I do that speaks to my heart, that lifts, that sort of excites my mind, that makes my heart sing? What is that thing? So I tried photography, painting. I would always take writing classes, UCLA. I would sign up for any class I could find that was like, a UCLA extension class, because that constant quest for curiosity. And I understood inherently that if I needed to keep my actor alive, my actor engaged as an artistic being in the world, it could not be tethered to what job I had or what audition I had that week. That it had to live above and beyond, right, those sort of markers. And so I picked up a camera and I was like, I could tell stories through a camera. Oh, I can paint. And I love that stuff. And I've pursued it as a part of my artistic life. And it all has helped me. It all helped me write the book. It's all a part of the soup.
It's all part of the soup.
All part of the soup.
Where did this come from? What in your beginning life prepared you for this life?
Ooh. The first thing that comes to my mind from that question is tenacity. It's something I really, my daughter, who is a teen, we had to record something recently for families because we're all on Zoom and we're apart, and it was a birthday, and we were asked to say something about someone that we loved, and all the family members and friends sent in this video, and I apparently in my recording used the word tenacious, like tenacity, tenacious, a lot. And so she said, what does that word mean for you? Because you say it a lot, mommy. And it made me think about, what does that word mean? And the one thing I can say that I do think I got from my early life, from my grandparents, from my community of origin, from my family of origin, is a kind of persistent, dare I say, dogged approach to finding a way no matter what. I saw my great-grandparents do it because I was fortunate enough to be alive long enough to kind of know them and have them be a part of my formative years. I saw great aunts and uncles do it by extension. And that was a kind of, if you will, family ethos. Well, they put a roadblock over there. Well, okay, how are we going to go around that? And again, I grew up in Texas. My family's from, mostly rural East Texas, Jim Crow era. I am the product of Jim Crow era children. And so they were about changing the world. They were not satisfied to simply change their station in life. Because there are people who, okay, it's about like, let me change my station in my time on the planet, which that is a path. This was about how do we change it for a community, for people at large. And people did that in all kinds of different ways, from being a teacher to pursuing professional careers to sometimes just helping out at their community church. There were a variety of creative ways to impact your community. That's what I saw. And I saw people use the skills that they had, the simple skills that they had, to do that work. So I think what that did early on was literally show me, okay, you can not move mountains, but you can affect change. And maybe it's going to require you to start bit by bit, piece by piece, but it will add up. Because the people in my life, what I saw, where they had to play the long game. Nobody had the benefit of the short turnaround. I mean, I just didn't see that in my, like, we literally, we're talking like, you read any of my sister's books, and I think you'll understand the landscape of what it means to come out of segregated American Texas South, and the kinds of obstacles you were up against as a African-American family, woman, man, child at that time, that teaches you a kind of nimbleness, a kind of way of wanting to say, how do I do what I need to do in the world? Do it in a way that helps my community, but that also preserves the essence of who I am as a person. I just saw that. I saw that. And I feel blessed that I got plopped into that ecosystem of humans that were thinking about the world in that way. And I benefited from it. And I think that prepared me for now. I mean, I feel like it's a long answer, but it maybe it's esoteric. But you asked about the formative, the early stuff. I mean, I could talk about like the professional ins and outs, but I'm talking about at the like soul level. Like, what was I seeing at 5, 10, 11, 12? What was happening? My sister and I were talking the other day about my dad, before his, when he was early in his law career, and he was still coming out of community, being a community activist. Then he was an attorney in a small upstart practice. But I remember when we had a wave of refugees from Haiti coming to Texas, and no one was letting them in. And my dad, with some of his community activists, got together. I remember going and doing like getting canned goods, getting hair products and brushes and women's pajamas together to all put together, because we were going to get, and I was thinking like, oh my God, what a blessing it was to have had that experience as a child, like to know. And I couldn't have told you where Haiti was on a map, but what I saw was somebody needs some help. And this is the thing I can do right now. I don't know if that answers the question.
That does answer the question. It also, on just a nuts and bolts level, explains the level of success that you've been able to have in an industry where where the demand just doesn't meet all the supply that's available for it. And I think look at a career, a life in the entertainment industry, in the artistic world, and you see the people who are able to manage to rise to the top and find a way through. And I think it is that doggedness in a way, and that determination and that belief that you'll find a way.
Well, and here's the other thing that I learned early on. One of my dear teachers, Julie Areola, who's one of my acting teachers, a sort of mentor, a dear, dear friend, taught me very early on, if this is the thing you want to do, and I'm speaking about my career as an actor, I was talking earlier about the times when, you're not auditioning so much, maybe you weren't acting so much. Is this something you would be willing to do if nobody paid you? Meaning, is this something that if nobody were looking, if there were no reward, but it makes your heart sing, would you want to do it? And my answer was always yes. And if my answer was yes, then let me get to it. If my answer was no, then yeah, I might pivot and try something else. But for me, the answer was always yes. And I've applied that way of thinking to pretty much everything I've chosen to pursue. I knew when I wrote the book, maybe only 50 people or 500 people would read the book. Was that going to stop me from writing it? No. I had to do it because I was called to do it, because that's, and that, I guess, conversation with my own interior life and my own heart, that is something that maybe my parents didn't teach me that, but that I somehow learned along the way. And I found other teachers to teach me that. And it's something I try to, Elizabeth Gilbert says it in a different way. She says, like, she calls it eating the shit sandwiches. Like, is this something you're going to have to eat a bunch of shit sandwiches to get to the thing you want? And are you willing to eat the shit sandwich? I mean, that's I love that way of looking at it. And baby, if you don't want to eat this shit sandwich, then don't do it. But if you do, don't begrudge that. That's what you're doing. You're eating the shit sandwich.
I mean, yeah. And I'll tell you, Tembi, in all complete candor and honesty, when I was acting, I wasn't willing to eat that sandwich.
Yeah.
What I'm doing now, I'm willing to eat it because I'm a little older, I'm a little wiser, but also think we come into what is ours when it is our time.
Yes.
And I think you found that space within yourself from a very young age. And I think that was always and has always been the X factor within you and your success, is that you had that awareness. You know, we were doing plays in high school. You weren't. Right? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes, I know what you mean. And I will say also that what you're helping me see in this conversation, which is why I love talking to you, is you're helping my brain is now connecting that aspect. And I think, as you're suggesting, it's a core part of who I am that I don't always acknowledge or, pinpoint or name. But that part of served me well for the 10 years Sato was sick and I was a caregiver.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to explain that to someone like, I don't know, Sato was still alive. So it's a decade ago. When I was trying to say how, and at the time I called it how my actor helped me be a better caregiver. And I was trying to talk about like how the tenaciousness, there's the word again, how that kind of doggedness, that sort of like, don't give up approach, that show up even in the face of uncertainty. Those are all things you learn as an actor. Like as an actor, you're starting out in New York and you got to have like 4 changes of clothes for the day. You're going to be on the train. You're going to be changing clothes here and there. You're going to get up. I mean, you can't you have to be nimble. You have to be able to be fluid about life. So it sort of teaches you fluidity, which I think they call it now the pivot. The pandemic and quarantine has taught everybody the great pivot. But, that's just a part of being like an actor on the street auditioning every day. But I think if I back that up a little bit, I think I had some of that before I was an actor. And I think that's what you're trying to suggest to me.
Yeah, that is the suggestion.
Yeah. And okay. I accept. Thank you. I hear you. Duly noted. But I say that because when I do talk to people about caregiving, which is something I'm also very passionate about, and it's something I do advocacy work around, there is a way that you are asked, and we all know it now because we're living in the pandemic, to show up every day not knowing and still give it your all. Still bring the best of who you are, the best of what you're capable of on that day. Because, right, it looks different day to day. And just show up for another person. And that's what I spent a decade doing, and what I read about it a lot in the book, I think that I can see now that is something that is inherent to me. But I don't think it's something that's learnable. I don't think it's like I think.
Maybe.
I hadn't thought about it. I don't know. It's coming to me now. So I don't have,
Right. Are you comfortable with the term as it applies to you, artist?
I am. I live an artful life. I know that about myself now. My sister makes fun of me because when we started the production office, we were each given an office space at the studio on the lot where we're going to be filming from scratch. Within 48 hours, my office space was set up. I had stuff on the walls. I had my orchids. I had all my things, right? I had all my things because I need my things, right? And I was like, okay, I can be here now. Go down the hall to my sister, and she's got, an empty coffee cup, a box in the corner, and she's like, let's go. And she said, look at my sister's office. Like, that's how she's like, who does that? Right. And apparently, little known secret to me, because I have never been a screenwriter prior to this experience, screenwriters don't typically decorate their offices at work because for whatever reason, they feel like if I could get fired next week, I want to just be able to walk out with my computer, so they don't take the time to decorate. I did not know this. I did not get this memo. And by the way, even if I got the memo, I would not care, because I'm like, I'm here now and I'm using it. So even if I get fired, I get fired, but I'll take the hour and a half it takes to, gather everything up. But I'm not going to live here in half measure. I'm not going to be half in, half out. I'm going to commit to this and stake my claim, plant my flag. This is my space. But not only for that, but also because it gives me joy. Because when I walk in here, I want to feel happy. So that's what I mean about when you ask me, do I take the term artist? I think you can live an artful life and it can look a lot of different ways.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean a paintbrush to a canvas necessarily.
Right.
Right. There's a way, there's a kind of artistry to living. There's an art to friendship. There's an art to love. There's an art to mothering. There's an art to being a friend. There's an art to teaming. There is a kind of artfulness to being human if you want to do it in a fulfilled, authentic, connected way. And I choose to do that. So yes, I'm an artist.
I'm making all of these connections right now. My friend Toby Poser, who you may have met, an actress.
I met Toby briefly. Yes.
Yeah, our lives don't always cross in certain ways, but she graciously sat with us, and she said at one point, and you're reflecting back what she said, but she said that you can find creativity anywhere. You can find creativity in the setting and the rising of the sun, and it literally took my breath away.
I think people conflate or want to link up often the essential human desire. Listen, we live in a creative, generative force created all of this. We are a part of an ecosystem as human beings who are evolving, and whether we know it or not, that is what we are. We are part of a creative, energetic force in the universe, right? We exist within that. But I think what people do sometimes is they want to conflate, they want to assign professionalism to something, and that's where they bump on this idea of artistry. So I'm taking a more broader, comprehensive approach than just like what you do as a job or as a career, and I'm saying what your friend Toby said, that there is a kind of artfulness and a creativity that has a broad applications for how we choose to be with each other, or the sun rising or setting, and sometimes, as a dear friend of mine, Josh Allen, who's a brilliant writer and screenwriter, has said, and there are people who find a way to monetize that creativity and create jobs from it. And that's another thing. But they're not mutually exclusive. You know what I mean? They start from the same place. Some people just choose to take that and employ that in their creative lives and in their professional lives.
Tembi, you've called Attica's name. You've called Julie's name. What are the names?
My roll call. I got a roll. Well, first of all, you're one of the names. You're one of my names. I remember when you sat down with me, I was, boots a shaken when I had the idea of starting a platform that I launched, I want to say 15, 16. So some 6 odd years ago, maybe more. The Kitchen Widow, which at the time, which is like a sort of a precursor to the book. I didn't know I was going to write a book when I started that. But that was me sort of saying, hey, I got all these creative tools. There's this thing I know. There's this big life experience that I've had. How can I use my creativity to express that? And I remember sitting down with you with sort of like loose ideas of what that might be. And you very succinctly were like, Tembi, this is from the outside looking in. This is what I see. And your name, we talked a lot about naming today, but your calling that really helped me to say, oh, yeah, I am an artist. I am an actor. You are one of the names. Paul Crump is one of the names. You'll know that name. He was our high school theater teacher. I call forth my ancestors a lot because the women in my life, both matrilineal and patrilineal lines, ooh, baby. I mean, talk about some fierce, grounded, forward thinking, will lift you up women. I mean, they just, they had an understanding that the best of who they are and who they were could best serve the world by being shared into another person. Meaning they were in on the secret. That the secret of a good life isn't so much about all the stuff you do for you, but it's about what are you seeding forward. They somehow knew that. So I remember coming into the room as a little person, like 7 or 8, and they'd be like, sit right here and tell me what's going on in your world. I mean, would talk to me like we were peers. And I mean, I say that lovingly because, most Black women did, not as peers per se, but like that they saw me as the woman I would be. And they were modeling for me, how do you see a child in whole for their wholeness? And that was powerful. And so I call them forward because they were teaching me, they were sharing a kind of wisdom with me. They were bringing me into a fold. This came into my mind right now. I hadn't thought about this before, but to a degree, that's a part of the relationship I found with Sadow's mom after he passed. That's a part of what I read about him from scratch, is I found that same sort of feeling with my mother-in-law in a different language, in a different country, ocean and continent apart. But it was that same, like, come here. Let's talk. Let me show you through something that you don't yet know. And I hope that as, my years go forward, that I do the same thing in small and large ways with others. My own child, people, maybe through my work. One thing I hope for.
I want to ask you, what decision, what choice in your life was your biggest leap of faith?
Ooh. I've had a few. I will say the first one was definitely the choice to go to Italy. That was, for me, from where I came from the family I had, from where I was in my life at that time, to go for the first time, leave the country with a passport that barely had the ink dry on it, and to go to a country that I didn't know the language, all of that stuff as a Black woman in my, I was 20 years old. My parents were like, wait, what's happening? That was a leap. And of course, we know how that changed the trajectory of my life. Becoming a mom, choosing to become a parent, and the way I became a parent through adoption, all the decisions that led up to that leap, huge leap. And then, of course, the leap to write this book. I think those are 3 huge, huge ones.
Tembi Locke, thank you so much.
We did it?
We did it. We did it.
This is so lovely.
I can't tell you what this means.
I hope it has served your work, because I believe so deeply in the work that you're doing. And this library of thinkers and this library of conversations that you are collecting, you are paying it forward. You are seeding a lot by bringing these voices together to talk about these moments of change, these moments of saying yes, the hardships that have yielded something beautiful. When we transmute our pain, when we transmute the no, when we do that, when we show people how it's done, when we talk about it, changes lives. I can see it now and I know it, and you're doing it. So I'm honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a beautiful legacy. Thank you.
Thank you. To those of you who are watching or listening, remember, we all have a voice. Use yours wisely. Thank you.